All right. So before I like dive deep into this channel and being on video all the time, I feel like I need to address the question that I know everyone is thinking. And that's yes, my hair is naturally like this. I've been gray permanently for almost 10 years now. Um, and yeah, people still ask me all the time. They like stop me in the street and they're like, is your hair really that color? And then it's like weird because I'm like, if I say no, what's the response? But if I say yes, like everyone's always like, it's gorgeous. I love it. I'm like, well, what if I told you that it wasn't natural? Like, what would you say? And then there was a period, I think it's like maybe still, but I don't think it's as talked about where like gray hair was like super in and trendy and all that stuff. It was like really cool to have gray hair. But I was like, this isn't like a choice. Like I didn't choose to go gray, but I'm sure there's some people that do it by choice. You know what I mean? I remember people telling me, "Well, you're so lucky because it's in now." And I was like, "Well, what happens when it's not in anymore? Like I'm not going back." Okay, so a little story about that because I'm sure there's people out there who are curious. I started going gray in middle school actually. So I think I was in 7th grade, but yeah, like I had jet black hair, like the color of my eyebrows. Um, I think I was 13 or 14. I was at sleepovers at my girl's house and like little gray strands were just popping into my scalp. And she and my other friends would just start plucking them out of my hair. And of course, back then the rumor was if you pull one, three more will grow back. So then I started on this you know, hair dyeing extravaganza. I would say when I was 14, I probably only started dyeing it like once every 6 weeks or maybe every 3 months. So, yeah, I'd buy the box of hair dye. I think sometimes I went to the salon, but that was like ridiculous. And then I started buying the box dye. Would take it home. My mom would help me do it. That went on for years, years from the time I was probably in like ninth or 10th grade until I decided to stop dyeing it. And then around the time we moved to Mexico, I could not keep up anymore with dyeing. I would dye it, and then the next morning I would have another gray. And at that point, Max was helping me dye my hair. And like, sometimes I would go longer than I wanted to without dyeing it. And he'd be like doing the back, and he'd be like, you got a lot back here. Like, so yeah, it was 2018. We were living in Mexico, and thus started my very, very painful journey with letting my hair go gray. And the reason it was painful was because I didn't have, I guess, the language capability to explain to the hairdresser what I wanted to do and how I wanted it to look and all that sort of thing. So we were living in Toluca, and I went to this guy, Jesus. I explained what I wanted to do, and I was like, "I want my hair to go gray, but it's still very black," because at that point, I've been dyeing it so frequently that my hair looked like fake black, you know what I mean? Like, it was just midnight black. And my hair is black, but I feel like you can tell the difference between dyed hair and natural hair, right? So, I don't even wanna think about this, but yeah, so I started growing it out, and he's like, "Alright, what we're gonna do is we're gonna strip the color, like, the color that I put in my hair, so that when it starts going gray, it can blend in or whatever." So, word of advice for anyone who's thinking of going under gray hair, don't do that. Just don't do it. It's not worth it. My hair was green for the longest time. Like it was literally green and this like awful yellow color. I remember going back to the States once to visit. My grandmother was like, "What are you doing with your hair?" And I was like, "I'm letting it grow gray." And she was like, "That's fine, but what are you doing?" Yeah, and I think being abroad was a whole other thing because, box ties are pretty standard wherever you go, but um it was still, going to the store, finding the right one, the one that I didn't have reaction to, like whatever. And I remember once in Korea, we were in Busan, we were doing a woof experience. So that's, for those not familiar, that's when you work usually on a farm in exchange for room and board. So you volunteer, maybe in Jeju, it's like picking oranges or something, and then you get to stay for free and eat for free. So we did ours in Busan, and I was just not into the idea of like actually working on a farm. So we found a vegan restaurant and we worked at the restaurant. It was so cool. It was such an amazing experience. So the lady that ran the place also had like a hair salon in the restaurant, which in hindsight is probably a little bit gross actually, but it was separated, it was clean, it was fine. And she did all natural products, so she did henna. So I was like, okay, cool. Would you mind dyeing my hair? Because the whole time she was asking about my hair and I was like, yeah, I dye it. And she was like, no, 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 don't use that box stuff. Like, I'm gonna dye it for you. And I was like, okay, but like when? And so it was so painful because the whole time I was there, like my hair was so gray and I was really self-conscious at the time. She was like, don't worry, don't worry. And I was like, listen, if you're not gonna dye my hair, I'm just gonna do it by myself, you know? But she was like personally offended by it. It was also like we didn't eat we only ate vegan even when we were like out of the restaurant. We couldn't kill bugs. It was like a whole thing. So out of respect for her, I was like, okay, I'm gonna let her use her products on my hair. But it wasn't until the last day I was there that she dyed it. And then she was like, everyone was just kind of giving me that look like I was too young to go gray, but also I was gray. So it was like, this is my reality. All right. So anyway, so I'm in Mexico. My hair is starting to be yellow and rusted and like just not look very good. And I had to resist every temptation to just start dyeing it again. And it went on like that for a really long time, a really long time. And at that point, there wasn't much more I could kind of do about it. I just kind of had to let it ride its course. And I would say it took me about 2 full years to get it where it is now. So this has now been my natural hair for, yeah, since like 2018. I think the reason I started it was because we were living in Mexico. We were going to go to India for a month. And obviously, there's no shortage of hair dye in India, but I didn't know what our travel situation was going to be looking like. Like, I didn't know how rustic things were going to be. And I thought that was just going to be a good opportunity for me to just like get into it and just let it go and no pressure, whatever. So that was in 2018. Um, went through that whole process. Went through a lot of self-conscious experiences. Like even my mother, who has gorgeous gray hair now, was like, "You are too young to go gray." But then I guess she wanted to try it out on me first because once she saw what it looked like on me, she was like, "Okay, I'm gonna do it now." And yeah, we just have really gray genes in my family. I think 14 is quite young to start. I've done some research to find out like why. It is possible. I had taken a lot of medications when I was young for various things. I was a pretty like sickly child. So maybe some of that contributed to it. Some of it was genetics. I mean, who knows? A lot of people go gray young, but like 14 is a little bit insane. So my mom eventually went gray, and then I was living in Jersey City. So we moved from uh Mexico to Jersey City. And, obviously it's like New York, so it's like the real thing, hair salons. And by then my hair was like looking better. It was in a much better state. And I started to experiment with it a little bit. Like I would put like pink and purple on the ends and whatever, just trying to figure out like how to maintain it. And I remember going to one salon and the lady was telling me all her opinion. She was just like, "If you ask my opinion, you're too young." And I was like, "Well, I didn't ask your opinion, so keep it to yourself. And also, like, I'm not coming back to you. The whole point of a hairstylist is to make you feel good about yourself and what you're working with." And she didn't do that. And then, um, yeah, I just felt like every which way I went. I went to another salon that embraced my hair a lot, but too much to the point when I told them like I wasn't happy. with the texture because it made me feel kind of like an old lady. She was like, "Well, they can't control that." And I was like, "Yeah, I get it, but like I'm not that old. Like I'm embracing my hair, but like I want to have some dignity too." So, whatever. I was really much on this journey by myself. I didn't know anyone my age, not even my age, older, who was just like letting it go gray. Like, I'm not going to say I started the trend, but like I kind of did. And around the time I went gray, there was a big movement to embrace going gray. And I'm glad that I went gray at that time. But remember, like I said, people are like, yeah, it's so trendy now. So, anyway, yes, I am fully gray. And as you can see, the ends get a little bit yellow. So occasionally I will put in a toner into the bottom and it'll give it this like cool black, like storm kind of look. And then it only lasts for like 2 weeks because I don't know if it's because I live in Bogota and the sun is very strong here that like it just yellows very quickly. But it is what it is. It's just part of it. I do deal with some, yeah, like, yeah, texture and dryness issues with my hair, which I'm sure will just become more problematic as I get older. And then also, postpartum, 2 kids, I went through a lot of hair loss. Um, but I don't even give it a second thought, honestly, unless someone brings it up to me, I don't even think about it. I'm like, this is just my hair now. Like, I'm sure people stare, especially because I live in Colombia, like people stare a lot. But I also stare at people too. Like if they have gray hair, I'm like, oh, like I look and I'm like, wow, like I want to ask them what they do because I've noticed people don't have like the yellow as much. I did go to one salon here and they were like trying to tell me that they wanted to like dye the whole thing again. And like, I was just like, no, I walked out of there. I was like, nope, you don't know how to do gray hair. I'm not doing this. But yeah, it's a lot less maintenance and I do feel more free and I don't, like I said, I don't think about it. And um, if anyone is wondering if the carpet matches the drapes, the answer is